Could Jimmy Butler be heading to the Bay Area to team up with Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors? Because there is a report out there from Sam Amick that Jimmy Butler is someone the Warriors organization has their eye on. This is the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. We've talked a lot about Jimmy Butler and his uncertain future with the Miami Heat over the past couple of weeks, and another report came out of a team potentially be interested in Butler. We've talked about the Brooklyn Nets, but now it's time to talk about the Golden State Warriors because this report from Amick really caught my eye and we needed to talk about it. Specifically, Amick said that Jimmy Butler, he's obviously going to be a free agent next summer. He didn't get the extension done with Miami this offseason. The Warriors have interest there and have probably made a couple calls to Miami this summer. Now, Amick is speculating the possibility of a call being made, but still, it is interesting nonetheless. And when you specifically just talk in a wide spectrum of the what could happen with Jimmy Butler, the Warriors are as fascinating as a team as there possibly could be. I have been very open, not just on the Heat system, but the overall arching in the NBA, that the Warriors need to make a move to help out Steph Curry because that current roster in Golden State is not even close to an NBA championship contending team. And heck, I don't even know if they'll make the play-in next year because you got teams like Memphis, Houston, San Antonio either bouncing back or on the rise, and I think Golden State's on the fallback. They did not send all their assets to get Lauri Markkanen in. And are they willing to wait another full year to potentially get Jimmy Butler in free agency? Or would they rather go out and try to make a trade? Because that is something that really could happen. And we've talked about it in the past about how the Heat have to make a decision. Are they going to commit to Jimmy Butler and give him a 2-year contract extension? Because he wants the Supermax contract that will be 2 years, $113 million guaranteed. He wants the first year to replace next year's player option for $55 million rather than his $52 million player option. And then he wants the 58 finally guaranteed year in his age 37 season. That's his last time and chance to cash in on a massive contract, and Jimmy wants it now. Preferably with the Miami Heat, but he is not afraid to go out there, ball this season, and then ultimately take his talents to free agency and see what other teams could offer him. But in Miami's case, you have to make a decision if you are going to commit to Jimmy Butler long term and give him an extension in the offseason, or if you think it doesn't matter and because he already didn't give him one, he's going to leave you out of spite, that you have to trade him at the trade deadline. I think that's a realistic possibility that I've talked about quite a bit on the channel. Jimmy Butler's been obviously one of the best players in Miami in the history of the organization. I think he's the third best player in Heat history behind D. Wade, number 1, and LeBron James, number 2. Because, yes, even though he has his deficiencies in the regular season in terms of maybe not giving it his all, not trying, being injured, there is no better playoff riser in the NBA than Butler. He's a different player in the regular season and compared to the postseason. And a lot of Heat fans have said, trade Jimmy, trade Jimmy. Well, I find it interesting that suddenly, all of a sudden, since there's a possibility of Butler entering NBA free agency, that there's teams now lining up the wazoo to go get him. The Nets are a team that have been linked to Jimmy, or Jimmy likes the Nets. Now the Golden State Warriors. We had the Sixers last offseason, or this offseason, I should say, keeping their eye on the Jimmy Butler situation. So Heat fans, I got to have a honest conversation with you. If you start to see a lot of other teams pop up that could possibly be suitors for Jimmy Butler, you have to then think, well, then why shouldn't Miami just keep him? Because if other teams want him, why would Miami get rid of him? And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I want Jimmy to stay in Miami. I want him to retire a member of the Heat organization. But the thing is this, you got to figure out what Jimmy wants. We know he wants his money. We know he wants it to be in Miami. But is there a possibility that he goes Minnesota Timberwolves Jimmy on you or Philadelphia 76ers Jimmy on you and just out of spite will want to leave you after this season because you didn't give him the common courtesy, and at least in his mind, of giving him that 2-year Supermax extension when he wanted it? More to come here on the show, but let me know, will Jimmy Butler leave Miami after this season? If you think he's going to leave the Heat, type your L's for leave. If you think he actually does stay in Miami and retires a member of the Heat organization, type your S's. I will say, though, if the Heat did have to make a move on from Jimmy, the Warriors intrigue me quite a bit. I really like what they have on their roster in a potential trade. And I've mentioned this. If the Heat are down at the trade deadline and they have a 500 record or under 500 record, I think a trade could be on the table. And the Warriors are on the short list of teams that I would be okay trading Jimmy Butler for and getting some decent assets in return. Talk more about that in just a second. But we are sponsored by Game Time, the number one way to get your tickets. And it's the only way that I get my tickets when I go to a sporting event, a comedy show, a concert in my local area. And I implore you to do the same. And when you do use Game Time, make sure you use that new feature called Game Time Picks, because it makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. There's some other really cool features that Game Time has, including all-in pricing. When you toggle that feature, you see your total number in terms of price of your ticket up front, rather than getting blindsided at checkout, because there's nothing worse than thinking a ticket say $60 and then you find out when you pull out the wallet, oh yeah, it's $100. Not going to happen with Game Time. You could also see your seat view in the app. You see the picture on screen right now. You can see exactly where your vantage point will be. Go catch a Dolphins game before the Heat season starts in a month and a half. Make sure you use Game Time whenever you go to a Miami Heat game or any event in your local area, because Game Time is the best. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, use code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, when you create an account for $20 off. Game Time, the best way to get your tickets. That link will be in the live or in the description and comments of today's video. What time is it? It is game time. Appreciate them for sponsoring today's video. All right, when we get back to the Golden State Warriors now, you have to think of what they can offer you in a trade if you ultimately decide to trade Jimmy Butler at the deadline. Say the Warriors are actually playing much better than we anticipated. Andrew Wiggins bounces back. There's a couple other guys, right? So, in my mind, if they feel like they can go out and they're Jimmy Butler away from competing for a title, why wouldn't they go out there and give it their chance? And if the Heat are around 500 or lower, and they're like, well, Jimmy might leave us in the offseason if there's a lot of interest around Butler, why wouldn't we just deal him and cash in now rather than lose him for less in a sign-and trade potentially, or lose him for nothing in NBA free agency? Well, then when you look at what the Warriors could potentially offer you at the deadline, you start to see, okay, maybe they make a lot of sense as a team. They have two really solid young players in Jonathan Kuminga and Brandin Podziemski. They also have a solid young guy, not someone that I'm going to be, wow, the Heat God, this is awesome, in Moses Moody. But they also have two first-round picks that also intrigue me with a bunch of pick swaps. Now, I'm not going to say Miami's going to get the entire farm for Jimmy Butler. That's not going to happen whatsoever. But could you get one of Kuminga and Podziemski alongside a couple first-round picks? That is a much possible situation. And these two young guys that headline what the Warriors could offer, and Kuminga and Podziemski, had really good 23-24 seasons. Podziemski was picked one selection after Jaime Jaquez Jr. in the 2023 NBA draft, and he was excellent. And Warriors fans and Warriors organization believe he could be the next guard in the backcourt for Golden State long-term after Steph Curry. Meanwhile, former top 10 pick Jonathan Kuminga finally had his best season in the NBA, averaging 16 points per game, getting to the rack. Now, he does have a little bit of a concern in terms of his jump shot, because he's not the best floor spacer and three-point shooter. He can get to the elbow and mid-range and hit a couple knockdown jumpers there. He kind of reminds me of Russell Westbrook, the way he attacks on offense, because he's so athletic, he's so lengthy, he can beat you over the top on a slam dunk, he could get past you and lay in a nice layup there at the rim, but he has the ability to just use his quickness and quick twitchy athleticism to just make you take one step back and then rise up at the elbow and free throw line for a mid-range jumper that he did so effectively. And if there had to be someone I would choose out of these two guys, I would actually choose Jonathan Kuminga. I think he's an excellent defender. He's athletic. He's bouncy. And he would be a really good replacement of Jimmy Butler. Not obviously going to replace him at any type of stretch of the imagination, but he would be a good young piece, as he is still really young, to have grow alongside some of your other guys of Jovic, Jaquez, and Bam Adebayo to potentially create one of the best wing front court pairings in the entire NBA. So be honest with me. Don't lie. Would you trade Jimmy at the NBA trade deadline? Type Y for yes or type N for no. It might be the biggest question entering the season for the Miami Heat, which is why I think the first half of the season is so massive for Miami. They have to come to the conclusion, where do we want to go with this Heat team? Do they want to stick with these guys and see if they can win an NBA title? And Jimmy, bam, and make a trade, or commit to Jimmy for the next 2 years and try to upgrade the roster in a different point? Or are you going to try to rebuild around Bam Adebayo, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and some of the young guys by letting Jimmy Butler walk or trading him at the deadline? This is a massive season for the Heat, and we will have to keep a key eye on it for the first half of the year. Which is why you need to be subscribed to the channel, because we're going to have content every single day surrounding this basketball team, news, rumors. We have it all here at the Heat Report by Chat Sports. I'm Nic Rohloff. See you, as always, with a video tomorrow. Go Heat.